The Packers are 3-0.
The Brewers have clinched the NL Central.
And the Badgers take on the Huskers this week.
Stay tuned. Sports Scene is next. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Sports Scene. I'm Drew White.
And I'm Cole Gallagher. All right, Drew, this week we've got quite a few subjects.
Got a lot to talk about, yep.
Let's get this show on the road.
Sounds good.
Sunday, the Packers played the Bears. What do you got for me?
I got rivalry renewed. It was great to see. Love to see the Packers beat up on the Bears. 27-17. Apart from Jermichael Finley's 3 touchdowns, the thing I really took away from the game is Ryan Grant having his first big game of the year. He had 92 yards on 17 carries, and I think he really paced us well and gave us a ground attack for once this year and didn't let us, the Bears, defend us in a one-dimensional manner. Whereas
Starks was not nearly as good.
Right.
He was, he averaged negative, I think he had -4 points for me on my fantasy team this year, or this last Sunday, so I mean, that's pretty good. But the Packers' run defense was phenomenal. Matt Forte averaged 0.2 yards. I don't know what that is in inches, but I think it's like
it's roughly 8 inches.
8 inches. He averaged 8 inches a carry for the entire game. That's pretty good. So, the Bears had 4 giveaways, only 2 sacks. They couldn't really get to Rodgers. He was solid as always, and the Bears only had 1 takeaway. So,
speaking of getting to Rodgers, too, Brian Bulaga is not out for the season. He will miss a couple games, though, so that's good. With the knee, yep. That's good news. One thing I do want to mention on the Bears side of the ball is, did you see that punt return? That Johnny Knox punt return where everybody went to one side, he went to the one of the most amazing plays I've ever seen.
Never seen it in my life. Why doesn't everybody do it?
Well, it's a copycat league. I think you're going to start seeing it a lot more. But speaking of Jermichael Finley, those 3 touchdowns are there. The guy's unstoppable. He's 6'5", 250. I don't want to tackle him. I wouldn't want to cover him. And
the Bears couldn't cover him.
Nope. I don't think there's any safety in the league that can cover him. All right, moving on now to what I introduced here today. The Brewers clinched the playoffs on Friday. They won the NL Central, beating the Reds 4-1 after a Ryan Braun home run in the bottom of the 8th. What do you think?
It all goes back to the beginning of the season when the Brewers went out and they actually got pitching this year. They got Markham, they got Greinke, and in the middle of the season they traded Cutter Dykstra for Niger Morgan. T-push! But McGee and Unieski Betancourt kind of fell off. McGee had a pretty bad year, but Braun and Fielder, the big bats, with 2, I guess, potential MVPs, Braun being the better favorite for MVP. Him and Matt Kemp in the NL are more favored for the MVPs. But Braun, he's batting .334 with 33 dingers and 111 RBIs.
Yeah, he's having a complete season, like you said, definitely an NL frontrunner for MVP. I want to talk about his defense in that game. Did you see his double play?
Oh, yeah.
He made a dive-in play and left, and then ended up gunning the guy out at first.
Gunny McGunderson.
It's things like that make somebody an NL MVP to me. Not just the offense and everything he does there, but he's a complete baseball player. He hits for average, he hits for power, hits all his RBIs. He steals bases. He does it all. So, it's really fun to have a guy on your team does stuff like that. And like you said, T-Plush, he's made it a lot of fun to be a Brewers fan this year.
His interviews are legendary.
They're fantastic.
Now moving on, this Saturday night, the Badgers play the Huskers, which is a matchup between the number 7 and number 8 teams in the nation. So, Drew, what do you think's going to happen?
I think the biggest thing the Badgers have going for them right now is that this game is at home. We all know what happened against Ohio State last year. The number 1 ranked team came in at home. We surprised them with a big play early, and the crowd kind of took it out of them. So look for the Badgers to do that again, get things going early on special teams, and then pound the rock with Monty Ball and James White.
Yeah. James White, I think, is going to be the key to the game. I think he's going to have a breakaway run. The Badgers are 45-4 at home since 2004, I think, and pretty much whichever team can execute will win the game. But I think the Badgers' offense is unstoppable. I've never seen. The Badgers have never had a quarterback near with the athletic prowess that Russell Wilson has. So
the one thing the Badgers got to be game planning for this week, though, is Taylor Martinez. He's a sophomore quarterback for Nebraska. He's going to be he was a Heisman frontrunner at the beginning of last year. The dude has 4.3 speed. He's averaging 6.7 yards a carry, and they just run that speed option. And if you don't know how to defend it, it's tough to stop with with world-class speed like that. So if we can keep them contained, keep the backers in, we should be fine because they only average about 150 yards through the air.
And I think the Badgers' one Achilles heel might be their run defense. So we're going to see what happens there. Hopefully, Borland can get some sacks on Martinez this week. So,
and speaking to slowing down their offense, that's part of what our run game will do for us, is we continue to pound the rock and run clock down.
Keep them off the field,
Yep. Now let's switch back to baseball once again here. Let's start talking about some of those wild card races out there. The AL wild card right now is dead locked with Tampa Bay Rays and the Boston Red Sox. What do you think?
Oh, man, this is, I don't know. The Red Sox were they were supposed to win 120 games this season. They're supposed to win 120 games. Now they might not even make the playoffs. They're in a playoff right now, actually. They have to win and get in. So their starting pitching this month has been just terrible. Their starters are averaging a 5.82 ERA for the month of September alone.
Oof, it's rough.
They're just terrible. John Lackey and Andrew Miller have been especially terrible, averaging over a 10 ERA in September.
It's an aging pitching staff. But I think the bigger story than the Red Sox collapse, they've lost 17 out of 22, is Tampa Bay. Since September 4th, they're 14-7, so they've really stepped up to the plate.
Under the covers.
Under the covers, exactly. Winning 2 out of 3 to get recognized in the race here and make it pretty interesting. Who do you got winning the wild card?
I got to pull for the Red Sox, man. They're my team, but I don't know what's going to happen, honestly. The Rays pitching right now they're pitching phenomenal.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
And that's for that reason I'm picking the Rays to win it because of momentum. Like I said, the 14-7 since September 4th, and the pitching, like you said, they're just playing lights out.
All right. So, opposite of that, we have the NL wild card, which is just about as hot as the AL wild card. The Braves are 1 game ahead, I believe. So
yep, they got 1 game lead.
What's going to go on in the NL wild card?
I know you're a big Braves fan, but I'm going to have to take those Cards there for the simple reason that the Braves are playing Philadelphia. The Cards do not have to face Oswalt and Hamels in the last 2 games of the year, and so I think for that reason they can win 2. Take 2 from Houston, who doesn't have a very good pitching staff, and I think Oswalt and Hamels are going to look to keep it rolling as they move into the postseason.
I don't even know what to say about that. The Braves, again, were supposed to be in the playoffs for sure. Chipper Jones is batting 3 for 22 with 7 Ks in the last 7 games. That's terrible. And this is a Chipper Jones jersey. So, I mean, maybe I better take it off. He might start batting better. And Brian McCann has been batting 174 since mid-August with an under 3%
on base percentage. Yeah, I know what you're trying to say here.
Yeah, on base percentage.
I think the Braves' biggest problem is their bullpen. They're wearing thin. They've pitched more innings than any other bullpen in the league.
Stud, though.
Kimball is a stud, but he's blown 2 saves in the last 2 weeks. He does throw smoke, but when it doesn't move, he gets dung around. He's been doing it lately, and he needs to have his best stuff. He does, and I don't think he has it anymore.
They're the new nasty boys.
I don't know.
Like the Smoltz and Glavine of the 90s. They're gonna get in there, and they're gonna, I think they're gonna get in. They're gonna get in.
All right. Moving on here, we're going to move back to football. A little story that we've been talking about all year. Peyton Manning, Jim Irsay, the Colts owner, actually had a tweet. There you go, on Twitter the other day, saying that Manning, with his neck injury, will not be back till December, but they're not putting him on injury reserve, so that does not rule him out for the year. What do you think about that?
I think Peyton Manning is the MVP of the league this year because pretty much without him, the Colts are god-awful. Curtis Painter, I'm better than Curtis Painter at quarterback. Kerry Collins should have stayed retired. But what do you think? I mean, Manning, they said he might be back in December, and hopefully he is back. But by then, they're going to be 0-13.
Took the words out of my mouth. At what point is it a lost season? You put the guy in IR and play for a guy called Andrew Luck. You brought in Peyton Manning to be the face of the franchise in 1998. He started right away, and for a lot of guys coming out of college, they don't do well like that. Peyton, he ended up doing well, but if you bring Andrew Luck and let him mature behind Peyton for maybe a year or 2, I think that's a fantastic plan, and that makes you a contender for the next 15, 20 years after Peyton's gone. So if I'm them, they do that, but at that point, then you got to wonder, they need a lot of defensive help as well. They're 18th in pass defense and also 22nd run defense. So they need to improve in a lot of areas, not just Peyton Manning. But we have to run to a quick break. Let's take a look at a quick PSA.
You probably think of the Nobel Peace Prize, but did you know it used to be the very opposite? Alfred Nobel was famous for the invention of TNT, which was used to devastating